How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Ready the Next podcast. I'm your host, Hayes Booth, and joining with me once again, we got the legendary co-host himself, Tristan Pettigene. Tristan, what's up, brother?
Nothing much, man. Dude. So on our first episode, we introduced ourselves and we talked about our testimonies. And I went into a little bit on substance abuse and abusing alcohol, abusing nicotine, a little bit of pill usage. But we have a little special guest today. Last episode we had a friend Sam, but this episode we got one of my good buddies. His name is Solomon. Solomon, how are you, dude?
Dude, I'm doing good.
Awesome.
Doing good.
Our second
I'm
guest,
good.
bro. Back-to-back
So-
guest weeks.
So, Solomon, tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, where do I start?
You can start from the beginning, bro. Wherever you're comfortable.
All right, well, I'll start from the beginning. I was a fairly good kid growing up, I think. I stayed out of trouble, always had good grades. I've always believed in God my entire life, and it was always poured into me at a young age, just the story and knowing who Jesus was. And, I remember growing up, saying, oh, I'm letting Jesus into my heart. My mom would always ask me that question, have you let Jesus into your heart? And so I think she really wanted it to be a big thing in our lives, which now is it's the biggest blessing in the world. It's just having somebody having somebody who just feel me, prepared the way for me so I didn't have to in certain ways. You know what I mean? Come do it on my own.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing. And, but, I was always real talkative and fidgety and jumpy and I was a kid, and I got in trouble for talking in class, and that was about it. I was just real adventurous, and so I'd always kind of find my way into trouble and things like that. And then the 7th grade, when COVID had hit, we just got bored. Me and my friends just got really bored because I could only hang out with 2 or 3 people that I hung out with because my parents don't want me to go and see all these other kids and then potentially get the sickness, So I had 2 buddies I was able to hang out with, and there were some people down the street we figured out lived from us. There was just a group of girls, and I didn't really know who they were. I rode the bus with them, and somehow that eventually just led into me going down this path of sneaking out every single night, 7th grade summer, vaping, drinking, just doing all these kind of things at 12, 13 years. I was 12 years old, I think, or 13 years old.
Hmm.
And it was just instantly going from, a year or 2 before that, I remember I'd be oh, if I ever vape, I did in my life. I remember saying crazy things like that, for some reason walking my dog or something. It was I had that vivid memory in my head of me saying that because I passed a broken up vape on the ground.
Yeah.
A month later, I'm vaping, and it was fun at first, and and then years went on, and then it wasn't, and then it became this. I need this addiction, and so and it's still bad to this day. Every single day I struggle with it. Every single day I wake up in the morning. Sometimes I wake up in the morning, 6 in the morning, and I can hear my brother, and I'm like, oh, Ryan hasn't left yet because he leaves before me in the morning, and I'll scream for him, half awake, come in here. I'm like, Ryan, you're half asleep, dude. Because it's just instantly I'm not thinking about it. The first thing I wake up and thinking about is, oh, I want to hit that vape. This is the only chance I'm gonna get to, because I don't see him all day. I'm home alone all day doing school, So it's every chance I get, I feel now I'm trying to.
Yeah. Okay. So, I already know the answer to this question because we've talked about it. But, did you do anything else growing up? I know you just talked briefly on
On the nicotine, yeah. Okay, I'll go into all the other stuff. So yeah, in 9th grade, I started doing marijuana, which was just, I sound like an old person when I said that. It was just the weed pens and stuff like that. and that was really it. And there was this stuff called Seeb, and it had came
Spice.
around, yeah. Which Seeb is? It's a synthetic cannabinoid. It's like a man-made in a lab. It's spice or K2, and it's a terrible drug. It's killing people in prison 24/7 because it doesn't show up on drug tests or anything. So it's just it's really really bad, but it can be labeled as other things. And so we thought we were smoking like CBD, and I was in ninth grade. It's like ninth, 10th grade. It was like around kinda, and I'd do it like I never bought it, but I'd do it and get these little highs, and but it was still just constantly every single day, every night, 24/7. Like there wasn't a time, in ninth, 10th grade that really like halfway into ninth grade, I think, or maybe towards the end of it, but like mainly 10th grade. I mean, it was just every single day I was high. It wasn't like I didn't know what it was like to not be high, pretty much. I didn't know what it was like being sober anymore. So I'd have to sit there and like sometimes I wonder, I was like, dang, like I wonder if I'm high or not. Because I couldn't tell the difference in me being high and me being sober because there wasn't any.
Yeah.
That tolerance just grew and grew, and that grew to making me do it more and more and want to like
Mm.
do harder and harder ones. So like, you're trying to get a more percentage of THC now and more expensive ones and more grams, which is like just essentially make it last longer because you're doing it a lot more. And so that all costs more money. I'm
How long did this
14.
addiction last?
Um, I mean, I think what, 2 to 3 years. And there's still times to this day where it's a struggle. It's always a struggle. It's a never ending battle because I think the devil just like in the moment he makes it seem like it is so fun and just like nothing's wrong, nothing. It's all okay. Like it's just gonna be fun. Like you should just do it now and you don't have to worry about anything later. And then yeah, maybe I will, and then I do, and that night I'm sitting there praying to God. Oh, did I do it again? I'm sorry. The 100th
Yeah.
time I've said I'd
Yeah.
never do it again. This is the millionth time I've came to you. Like, in my head, I'm going, how can you forgive that after I've like it's so hard to pray to him. I feel like sometimes because I'm like, I came to you 2 trillion times just about the same exact thing, saying I'm not going to do it again, and I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's just a reality for a lot of Christians, bro.
Mm.
Because like, if we focus so hard on not sinning, we're gonna sin,
Mm-hmm.
obviously.
Right.
And because like we're not focused on loving Him. If we're focused on loving Him, naturally we're gonna sin less, right? So I think that's just a reality for a lot of Christians, Solomon. A lot of people will
Yeah,
focus on trying not to vape, trying not to fall back into smoking weed, or trying not to drink, trying not to lust. Like, dude, the list goes on. And just like whatever that person is struggling with in that season of their life, if they try to stop sinning instead of training to stop sinning, Pastor Brandon told me this. He was like, "Hey man, you need to stop trying." I think you were in that Bible study with me when we were with Brandon. Stop trying, but start training. You need to quit trying so hard, but you need to train. It's just like say that you were like in a boxing match. Like if you trained boxing, you wouldn't go into a full blown fight like somebody who's been training for 5 years and it's your first day. You wouldn't go into the ring and just go 5 rounds with them. No, you get killed, right? But if you trained yourself to fight that battle and train yourself, set the right things up, right? You need the right equipment. You need to have the right equipment with you, be equipped with it, and
yeah.
then you will be trained to fight that battle. I
Maybe
do
I'll
want
go
to.
with that.
So you were addicted to this from freshman year to junior year, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. So you said
and
that your mom is very Christian, very
oh yeah,
very religious. So how did it feel like hiding that from her?
that was always the part that hurt the most. Before coming to God, it was always the reason I always wanted to stop. everything, like, because being trapped in addiction, it doesn't mean you want to do it. There's a short time where you do it and it's fun, but then it's in actual, you're trapped. Like, you stop
Yeah.
wanting to do it and you're trying to get away from it, but you feel like you can't, and so you continue to do it. And so that was like the place I was in for the longest time, and it was always like the main thing. I was always just, you know, trying to get out of it was like my mom. Like, she was always the one who helped me. And when I finally did come to her about everything, she wasn't angry. She wasn't upset. She cried, bawled her eyes out, and she was just so happy that I came to her and let her know. And instantly,
Hmm.
she, we did the things we needed to do to get me to, get help and things like that. And so she really has been just like the biggest support of my life
Yeah.
it
100% my addictions.
Yeah, it reminds me of this quote, and I think y'all saw it. It went around Instagram recently. I don't remember where it originated, but it said, "Sin feels like freedom until you try to stop," and then
Hmm.
that's when it becomes like a jail cell. Is when you realize, oh, this isn't good. I need to get out of
Yeah.
this, and then it becomes a jail cell where you're trying to
Yep.
escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is all,
I,
for me as somebody, I've been homeschooled since second grade. I wasn't a sheltered kid, but in some cases, I was, because this stuff is new to me. I didn't, struggle with that type of thing, but kind of, I guess, what would you say? What kind of impact? You've already talked some about it, but what kind of impact would you say these addictions and things like that really had on your life in those few years?
Um, Changed my life, changed my entire life. Picking up a vape it's one of the worst decisions I've ever made in my entire life. But at the same time, now I wouldn't take it back for the world, because I wouldn't be where I'm at talking with you guys right now if it wasn't for that. And so I think everything, of course, happens for a reason, and we all believe that. And so I think God has had his hand in every single bit of my life. Even though he has these different paths for us that we take. He's shown me this right path. I'm always going the left one. I'm always taking the wrong one, but he's still there. He's backing up with me. He's taking like every step of the way
Yeah.
hmm.
until eventually, I realized I couldn't do this alone anymore.
Well, yeah. When would you say? So we went over this addiction part of your life and how it's tearing you up.
Yeah.
The audience is over here like, dang, this guy just sucks. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But when would you say that God like found, or I guess you found God? Like, when did
A
you finally come to him?
little bit over a year ago now, I was just at that takeover, this little retreat thing that we do with our church, and it was the first time, like one of the leaders we had, it was the first time that anybody had ever had somewhat of a similar story. It's someone lived a similar life, someone who had actually done wrong in the rest of these people's eyes. Because when I would go with the church and like do like the things, like go to church camp and things like that, I just always felt so alone. Or go to the youth groups and Bible studies, because I was the only one there who had ever messed up, done any wrong. It felt
Yeah.
like, stepped my toe out of the water, got out of line, like anything. And there's a lot of, and so I just kind of felt different than everybody else. And so when I was there, like I didn't want to be there. I hated it. Every time I tried begging my mom to go, and she always forced me to go. And so something just clicked, I guess, hearing somebody be able
Yeah.
to relate to me. And I
Like you're
didn't,
not alone.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I was kind of able to talk to her and be open and honest a little bit about, some of the things I struggled with, not fully like I would be now, but just a little bit. And like up until this point, I've always believed in God. I had always known God was real, and I prayed to Him a lot, and I'd always thought about the big questions, and really thought like I'd thought about it a lot, but I'd never really devoted anything to it. So
Mm.
I could sit in my bed and pray and go, yeah, God, I know you're real, and just talk in my head to God for an hour or something before going to bed, and that would be a once in a blue moon thing. But it is just like I never decided I'm gonna fully commit everything to
Yeah.
him, and after that it was slow into it, but I had just started doing homeschooling, and now that was when I was addicted to the seed stuff, and I didn't get into that part about my addiction. Should I do that, you think?
You did.
No, not about the seed. I didn't talk about the seed.
Just a little bit. Okay.
I
Yeah.
talked
I
about
didn't.
10th
Yeah, if
grade.
you
I
want
talked
to, you
about
can.
I talked
Yeah,
about
man.
what I talked about in freshman year. It was kind of going around, and that the only other thing I
Okay.
did besides marijuana.
Yeah, man. If you're comfortable, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. And so I'm a senior now. It was my junior year last year around Christmas time, and so started that year August. My dad had gone to jail. I believe it was August 22nd or 24th. I know it was like 20 something. My dad had got sentenced to 20 years in prison, and I don't remember if at the time I was doing the SEEB or not. I think I might have been, but it wasn't what it had got to. If it was, it had been very, very little. And after that had happened with my dad, it was just so unexpected out of the blue. Like I got like a week notice. So he told me that, and then that whole next week he stayed the night at my house. My parents are divorced. He got my mom, my parents were nice enough to let him come stay at our house for a week, and my whole family was home, besides Shiloh, and like everybody. My sister, my older brother, he has 4 girls and a wife. He stayed upstairs at our house. My sister, she was living in Atlanta, like she came home. Like we all, stayed home and just spent that last time, like that last week with our dad. Just, I mean, every second of the day I was with him. I think there was one time I'd gone off and did something because a week before my dad told me that I had a buddy die in a car crash from drinking and driving. And so I didn't even get to mourn him. Like that happened, and then next thing I know, my dad's going to jail. And so that kind of just spiraled me into this bad path of depression and anxiety. And I didn't know what depression and anxiety was. I didn't believe in it. I didn't think, like, I kind of thought, okay, anxiety, I understand. I kind of had a small grasp of anxiety, like, oh, you get maybe like nervous or scared, and you start, you know, yeah, I've had that before. I had no idea what anxiety was. I had no
Yeah.
idea what depression was. I had no idea I could be sitting there driving in a car full of my buddies, and tears just start falling down my face. I'm screaming, crying, like, and in my head going, why? There's nothing, like, I'm not sad about anything right now. There's nothing going through my head. I would just start crying.
Wow.
Craziest thing, there was no reason. I would just start bawling my eyes out. And so I was in such a low place where the only thing I could do or felt like I could do was numb it. And that's what the spice did. It just completely, it numbed everything. And I was going through pods of this stuff a day. Like the pods they're pretty big. They'd last, most people like a week. For one of them, I was going through 2 or 3 of them in a day, sometimes even 4. So I was just doing absurd amounts of it every second of the day, all the time. Like, and it wasn't like you gained a tolerance to it. It wasn't like with marijuana, with weed. You do it, and the more you do it, you don't really get as high the more you smoke it, because you just kind of, like, the longer you smoke it, because it just kind of build a tolerance to this stuff. It's
Yeah.
every time you do it, you just get this insane high.
Yeah.
And
Can
so
I
I
give a little
mean,
bit of context on this Siebe stuff?
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So I didn't really struggle with it. I never grew an addiction to it. But this stuff, like, it started with, like, it seems like it was just like it was meant to just like get kids addicted, because at first
Yeah,
it was like this purple stuff. It was called Crown, and like it wasn't bad. It was like it felt like you were just like smoking a little bit of weed, right? it wasn't nothing too crazy. And they just kept coming out with more and more like different varieties of this stuff.
Because what it
And like,
is it's different strands of it. And so
yeah.
I'm pretty sure all of it is different strands. I don't think there's a single bit of it that comes out that is the exact same. And
Mm,
I could be completely wrong, but I know like there's a lot of it that is just like complete different chemical makeups of it.
yeah. And dude, this one time, like this brand new stuff that came out, and I had tried it, and oh my goodness, bro. Nothing like ever anything I've ever taken. I've tried pills. I've mixed pills, weed, and alcohol at one night, and like still could not top this. It was literally a trip. Literally a trip, dude. And I just that was my first
Wow.
time using it because like it was like it lasted 15 to 30 minutes.
Didn't make your eyes red. It doesn't show up on a drug test, and that's why it felt like there was this miracle drug, and so it was so enticing. And at the time, I'm pretty sure my parents were drug testing me, and so that was like one of the main reasons I got into it is because it didn't show up on a drug test. It was never meant to be. It was never meant to be get something to like substitute or get super high on. Well, I guess it was. It was meant to substitute weed. That's what I mean. I actually kind of forgot that until just now for a while. The reason I started doing the spice was because I was trying to just like get off of weed completely, and I didn't think it was as bad because I believed in my head, like I made myself believe it was CBD,
Mm,
and it like this
Man.
stuff genuinely puts holes in your brain. It's scary.
yeah, it
And so
does.
I mean, I was doing that stuff every second of the day. My body would wake myself up at 4, 3, 5 in the morning every single morning, so I could hit it. Because when you first wake up, it gives you like the most high. It gets you like just like you. It is a like Tristan said, like a genuine trip like you've never felt before. And so my body
Hmm.
would wake myself up 4, 3 in the morning, hit it like in a bunch, like I would like
Yeah.
blinker it, go back to bed, do the same, go back to bed, and then do the same again. And then sometimes I could
Hmm.
repeat. And it was just, I was just trapped. Like, I was driving high with my mom and like driving my mom high
Yeah.
in the car off of that stuff.
Yeah.
And
That's
Tristan said this is some of the strongest stuff he's ever done. Like,
yeah, dude.
behind the wheel, not just my mom, say not just my mom. Okay. And my friends all the time. A car was
Yeah.
full of my friends all the time, going 130, 140 miles down the road because I didn't care about my life. So,
Yeah.
tripping off of drugs, flying at insane speeds in the car, being on all this depression, anxiety, you can't get lower. There's not
Yeah.
like, and I think I was on meds too for depression and anxiety. Like I'd just gotten on them and things like that, I believe. And so, or I may not have yet, but it was just, I mean, rock bottom. There's no lower.
Yeah. What was the turning point?
Um, the turning point was weird. It was just sudden and it just happened. So it was after the takeover. At the whole time I was takeover, I was high off the spice. The entire time
Hmm.
I was doing it. Got done with it, And when you get done with like church camp things, you're like, oh, spirit filled. You're like, dude, wow, I'm doing so great. I'm gonna do great for a
Yeah.
week, and then I'm gonna go
Just
back
on
Yeah.
fire.
and
You're just
Yeah.
on a spiritual high. Yeah.
I wasn't even really on that much of a spiritual high. Really, I mean, I didn't really care. I was like, yeah, that was great. That was Jesus, the most Jesus I'd gotten in a while, but it didn't. I didn't really. I wasn't really planning on changing anything. You know,
Yeah.
it increased my knowledge, but it didn't do anything for my actions. And I was talking to this one kid who is a terrible kid, and I hate saying that, but and there's one of those things where it's hard to put in any other better way. He didn't really care about his future, just doing whatever he can to have fun, getting the next high, living for the next high, the next drink, the next, sex, whatever it is, like all he does. And even this kid knew how bad the stuff was. And so the entire time I'd done it, most of my friends wouldn't even do it because they were like scared of it. And they were like, nah, dude, that stuff's not right. That stuff's not right. I'd always been told, dude, that's spice, that's opioids, that's blah 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 blah. Honestly, I got laced one time at a party off of Seeb in the 10th grade, and I took a drug test like 2 or 3 days later because I was getting drug tested by my parents. So I just wanted to see because I think I just wanted to see if anything would show up for it, and opioids showed up in my pee.
Whoa,
Jeez.
some wicked stuff there. So what, like,
That's
was it
crazy.
a specific thing? Because we talked briefly, like you said, you're at rock bottom, right?
Yeah,
Your father just got sent to jail. Was Shiloh out when you got saved? Okay,
Shiloh
so
didn't
like,
get out until last. It's
yeah,
almost been a year now, actually.
yeah.
Getting
So
closer to a year.
yeah, so your dad just got sent to prison. Your brother is in prison. Um, man, you were just addicted to this stuff. So like, man, how did God save you? Like, what did He do? You went to take over. You experienced Him, but like, what really was it that just you were just like, all right, God, I need to make a change. I accept you. You know.
Um, it was. I just kind of distanced myself from everybody after I quit the spice. So I wanted to quit everything, and I was getting help, and I got on medicine and everything like that. And so after the takeover, like I was doing the online school, and so for it might have been a couple months, I was completely off of I think everything, and then and it was just Sam, God, and my mom, and it wasn't as much God. It was as much God to me. I didn't know it was God, right? So I had no idea what God was doing at the time and how He was preparing me and working me and opening up these doors for me
Mm,
to make this change in my life. But
yeah.
Right.
now I can see, oh, that whole time God was right there, and I just didn't know it. I wasn't looking. If I would have
Mm,
been, God, God, I need your help right now, and I'm gonna try and develop my life now, dude. My life would have been so much easier.
yeah.
Yeah, all I would have had to do is reach back and grab his hand real quick, but instead I
Yeah.
was, kept trying to do it on my own.
Yeah. For
And
real.
so I was in Hawaii, and my parents so my dad and my mom lived in Hawaii for a couple years. My oldest brother was born in Hawaii because my dad was in the Marines. So it was really cool. My mom going back and me getting to see a lot of things. My mom had gone back I think once or twice before, not too many times. But so, she liked going back, and it is just the most beautiful, absolutely amazing place you've ever seen. It's fairy tale. It's like a dream. I want to move there so bad. And it was I think one of the last days we were there, it was Easter, and we were going to a beach service for church. And I guess this pastor just was really speaking to me, and it was one of the first church services in a long time I'd stayed awake for. Maybe it's because I was on the beach in sand, and I was sitting in a chair, so it might have been hard to fall asleep. But like, I just listened, and I was like, wow, like this is really good. I don't remember what he was talking about now, but and then I just remember having this like feeling inside of me when he was talking about baptisms, and he was letting people do it. And I got baptized in the 10th grade because, it probably was on one of those spiritual kicks because I had always believed, but I was never. And so I was on one of those spiritual kicks thinking I was going to go. And then I remember I got baptized, went right in my truck and hit a vape after, and kind of did the same thing. My faith was a little bit stronger, but I still was vaping, and I was still just doing those things. And I don't know if I was really smoking as much then because I would like probably got in trouble. But
Mm-hmm.
like it didn't last very long. I'd always just gone back to it regardless. But this time it was different. Like I was like, okay, and I hadn't been talking about anybody this. I was like, okay, I think I really want to do this. Like, I think this is something that I'm not going to regret.
Yeah.
And dude, getting baptized in Hawaii in the ocean on East, oh my gosh, dude,
That's pretty sick.
that's got to be on somebody's bucket list. There's no way. And so it was just amazing, a beautiful experience. And then came home, and my mom had been just asking me about this Bible study. Wanted to do a Bible study with my buddy Sam. Who was Sam on the podcast?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Was that
soon.
We had a different Sam on last week. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch that episode. Sorry, boys. I probably got to do that after this now.
It's not even out yet, so don't worry.
It's not out yet.
Well, I should still be the first one to see it and like your best friend, you know. But
Okay.
It's fine, guys. No, it's fine.
Pretty nice.
We listen and we don't judge.
It's
That's
okay,
right.
guys.
That's right.
It's okay, guys. I see how it is. Just gatekeeping. It's okay. Anyways, and like I was just dreading doing this Bible study because my mom was saying, "Oh, we're just gonna do it with Sam and my mama's best friend, or my mom's really good friends with this lady named Tanya, which is my buddy Tyler's mom." And so Tyler was in my friend group, and he would kind of did the same things as me, but he was also like he was Sam's age, so he had been like best friends with Sam for a while, but he also didn't really act like Sam. He did the same stuff. So Tyler was a good friend of mine, and I was like, okay, that might not be that bad. And so I think that with Tyler being added to it, maybe might have convinced me to want to do it. Just because like two older guys. I don't even know. Tyler never even ended up doing it at first. At first, it was just me, Sam, and like Ryan one time, and then I got like a couple of my buddies to go. Next thing you know, after like 2-3 weeks maybe, we had 10 to 20 kids there each time.
Yeah.
And it was room packed out with all my buddies. And it wasn't a normal Bible study. It wasn't like every single person there was just completely devoted to God. But 2 people got baptized. Certain people, like it started, I think it planted a lot of seeds, and it started fire in a lot of people. Right?
Yeah.
Like
And
Tristan, I think it might have
to give a
helped
time
you.
frame. To give a time frame on this, I got saved, I think it was April 28th. It was almost a year coming
And
up.
April is when spring break is, and so it all
Yes.
kind
So
of
this is about like where you're at right now in your story is about the time that I started going to that. I think I started going like right after those people got baptized, but continue.
You did. You said you went like the one after they got baptized.
The Tuesday after, yeah.
And that was like, sad thing was, I think that was starting kind of going towards the end of it because
it was. There was only like 3 weeks.
Yeah, because summer was like almost over. Sam was going to college, and it was all that, and so we didn't really have anybody to continue it.
Sam had already had his epiphany, his message from God.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he wasn't going to college. He was going to
That's what it was.
Learn how to be a missionary.
Yeah, that's what it was. He got out of college.
I texted him already, but
yeah, that's what it was. He got out of college, and but that helped me grow in my faith.
Yeah,
and that started me having that. Okay, I want to do things a little different, and it's been slow. It's been really, really slow. Start just walking.
Yeah, dude. I mean, hey, if you sprint, you're gonna trip. For
a while, I was crawling, dude. For a while, I was army crawling. I was taking my time, trying to hold on to that little bit of the world, And then eventually, now it's like, okay, like I let go. I let go. I'm walking. I'm running into it sometimes, but I'm not holding on to it anymore. Dang, that was heat, bro. Dude. Y'all need to quote me, bro.
Dude, Tristan, was that yours? Was that your thing? Or did you hear that from somebody? If you sprint, you're going to trip.
Uh,
Did you just come up with that?
kind of. I think I've heard that somewhere, but like it wasn't that exact wording.
I love that. In your walk with God, if you sprint, you're gonna trip. I love
No,
that.
for real. And I
Yeah,
also I heard this song.
aces
It
are
was
top.
like it was like running to God. I forgot. It's an Elevation Worship song. It's like I'm running, stumbling, I know, but I'm
Oh,
coming.
they do
Dude,
Yeah,
have a song called "Running."
did
So,
you
that's
listen to
not
that
it. It's
song
off
I
the new
sent
album.
you?
oh,
What'd you
Did
say,
you
Solomon?
listen to that song I sent you?
All right, we'll talk about this after the pod.
No, because it's a really good song. So
I've seen it. I've seen it on Instagram. It's
okay,
pretty
you have
good.
seen it?
It's fire. But
Yeah.
but look, to go back to your story, bro. So after this had ended, because I know that like you started to fall back a little bit in your walk with God after Sam had left, because Sam like lifted you up. To give an insight on who Sam is for the listeners, Sam
He's like
he's our
Paul.
pastor's son, so he's a pretty wise fella.
he's very wise.
He's a missionary out on the other side of the world. So yeah, he's a
He's in
wise guy.
Peru, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
Yeah.
our Paul. We're like Timothy. He's
It's
Paul. It's that kind of
in
he
ordeal.
a
is
way,
our
in
Paul.
a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so how did that affect you when one of your good buddies who were one of your good mentors, how did that affect you when he left?
That was hard. That was really hard because that was the only person I really had like doing it with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The only person I had where I wasn't alone, where it wasn't just me,
Mm-hmm.
struggling with this together. Where if I was, I didn't want to go out hitting a vape and smoke weed or drink, and all my friends were doing that all the time. Well, I didn't want to be around that because I was trying to be smart enough to know, okay, I can be with them sometimes, but if I continue to surround myself constantly 24/7, well, I know exactly what I'm gonna go do. I'm gonna
Yeah. That
fall
was
right
like the
back.
only community.
And so,
It was the only community you had.
yeah, and so that kind of just that was really hard. But what time frame did me and you start hanging out?
as
So
soon as soon as I went to that first study. So like it
we
was
started
me and
becoming
you started
friends
getting
after that.
close. We started getting pretty close right as soon as like right
Okay,
3 weeks before Sam left.
So
okay. So
did y'all know each other prior to that, or did y'all meet
so
at the
Yeah.
Bible
We
study?
we used
me
we
and
actually had a
Tristan were
class together when the seed was
Okay.
we
getting
were
bigger.
dude, me and Tristan were
Except
pretty close friends for a little bit. There was a
for
Okay.
little
for
while.
a little semester because we
There
had
was
one class together and
yeah,
we would
there was
just
a
hit
little
vapes
while
and
where I
pens and just get
considered
Yeah.
stoned
Tristan
next
like
to each
one of
other.
my closest friends because I was just like hanging out with him a lot.
Yeah, we
Got
actually
you.
went to Orange Beach together. That was cool.
Yeah,
Oh, sick.
yeah.
Yeah,
I brought him to spring break, and I was dude,
bad time frame.
dude that was cool.
Anyways. So yeah, me and Solomon started getting pretty close, but yeah, dude. So now, dude, you have been
Dude,
saved. God has changed you a lot. What would you say it was like for like these newer believers who may be struggling with putting down some substances? It could be weed, it could be alcohol, it could be a vape. What would you say? Like, what advice would you give them if they're struggling with substances?
what we already talked about was, and me and you have talked about this a million times as well, but you brought it up earlier. Just don't focus on just quitting it. Don't focus on just dropping that, and that's how, and God's gonna love you more, or you're gonna get closer to God because you're
Mm.
quitting something. No, focus on you and your relationship with Jesus, and your love for Jesus, and everything else will follow. It says in Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom and all His glory, and the rest will be added. Right? I got that right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
Yeah.
okay, and so one way that I've kind of interpreted that in my life and in the seasons that I've been in recently is just look for Him and search for Him and do everything I can to love Him the best possible way and love like Him. And if I do that, the want to hit a vape, it's gonna go away. It's gonna be gone. It's not gonna just end. It's not gonna magically go away. It's gonna take a lot out of me, and it's gonna be hard. And I'm kind of coming to terms with that too. Is I think I've also recently been going, okay, God's just gonna do it. I'm just gonna rely on God. No, I gotta do it too. He's not just gonna give everything to me, but
Whoa.
focus on that love and that relationship with him, and he's gonna supply you with every single thing you'd ever need.
Man, that's so
I
good.
love that.
I was actually talking with Hayes this morning. I was on the way to the beach, ready to go skimboard, and I was calling him. I was like, "Man, this is what God has been teaching me," and it is exactly what you just said, bro. Like what you put in is what you get out. And I was just like dwelling on John 15,
Mhm.
abide in me and I in you. If you haven't read John 15, it's like literally start in John 15, and it's that first little paragraph, and it's just I am the true vine. It's saying that God is the gardener, Jesus is the vine, and we are the branches, and then we bear fruit as the branch. So we cannot bear fruit. We cannot grow unless if we are attached to the vine. And if we're not constantly attached to Jesus and chasing him, pursuing him, and abiding him in him, trying to become more like him, then we aren't going to grow because otherwise we're relying on our own strength. Um, and yeah, man, you just need to fill your cup and just chase him as hard as you can.
Mhm.
Run straight to him. There's a big. Now, don't get this confused. I'm not saying like run with God. I'm saying like walk with God, but run to him. Make
Run
sure you're
after
running.
him. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
Yes.
I always
Yep.
like. It's always hard to like explain that. Every time I say that, I'm like, dang, I wonder if somebody's gonna get that like messed up because I'm like,
Yeah.
we're not running, we're walking. Trying, it's a walk, right? We're walking. We're not trying to just jump over all these obstacles,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I'm chasing after him. I want
Yeah.
him with everything in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And one another little scripture, and it was when Tristan and I were on the phone that I mentioned this to him, which kind of triggered the conversation. But this verse that was part of my Bible study today was it's Psalm 119 verse 9. It says, "How can a young man keep his way pure? By keeping it according to your word." Meaning that if we're abiding in the word of God, if we're seeking Him, growing in wisdom, growing in knowledge about what He says, that's that's our guide. That's our guide for life. That's our guide for decision making. And so that's how we grow in righteousness. That's how we grow in sanctification is by learning what God says, learning more about Him through His Word. Solomon,
Like,
I do want to point out, I love that seeing you grow, just in life and in your faith in the short time I've known you has been awesome because I think I met you at Takeover when all that was going down. I'm pretty sure that was when I met you. Seeing you at Takeover, I've seen kind of over periods of time because I don't think you and I became like close friends until like maybe it was around when the Bible study started when it kicked back off over like after
yeah,
this end of summer last year was when I started to get to know you, I think. But seeing that kind of transformation take place of you, I can just tell you've been more really full of life, really just been um, just seeing the transformation in your life take place and seeing you seek God
bro.
more
Thank
has really been, an awesome thing for me to witness. And I think that's something that can speak to people that listen that, struggle with, alcohol or drugs or whatever it might be. Um, to really, consider like, okay, is this really a good way to go? And I think we've seen just from your story alone that that's, it doesn't lead to
you. Yeah,
the
one
right
of the
things.
one of the biggest things
Yeah.
I can say is if you're in that position, and especially if your parents care and you're like hiding it from your parents, and it's just like paranoid, like you're just hiding it from them, you feel bad, dude. Or if you're getting caught or anything like this, you just got to be open and honest.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do is be honest with them and genuinely be like, okay, like, and tell them what you're doing, exactly what you're doing.
Hmm. And I
And
really think like your story just goes to show that like if you're going through something like Solomon struggling with anxiety, depression, and you can
un-
see that
and an
chasing
unbelievable
something
addiction.
to what?
I said, and an unbelievable addiction.
Yeah. Chasing something to cope with it is not the move. Like God can wipe away any depression, anxiety that you have, literally just like fill you with peace. Um, do you have your Bible app open or your Bible with you, Hayes?
Yeah.
Could you open up to Isaiah 9:6 and read that?
Isaiah 9:6. I have my phone right here so I can pull it up on the trusty Bible app.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah 9:6, you said?
Yeah.
Here it is. It says, uh, For a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace.
Mm. So God,
Prince of Peace.
yeah, he's gonna. Oh man, I love that verse so much.
Yeah, that's it.
Um, like he's gonna fill you with peace. He's the prince. He is
Yeah,
the Prince of Peace. He's not
Yeah.
some joker, you know. And he's your everlasting Father. He will guide you. He's your counselor. Like there is nothing but light and goodness to come from just surrendering to God. And if you're struggling with an addiction, or even if you're like contemplating it, like I don't know why, I don't know how you came across this video, but if you on the other side of the screen are struggling with something, um, seek help, seek the counselor. It can be an earthly counselor, or you could just seek the wonderful counselor.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely
That's
seeking
good.
help. There, I had to take therapy for a while, and I mean, I was so turned off to it because like most like 17-year-old boys are, they're like therapy. Go talk to somebody about how I feel. What do you? Because I think everything as a guy you've been told forever is don't feel anything, pretty much. And so going to talk to somebody about how you feel just seems like the weirdest thing in the world, but it's not like that. Like they're genuinely putting the way you feel into perspective, and like the way you feel that way, it's not for no reason. It's normal. You're not
Right.
alone in this. There's reasoning behind everything, and so they put it all into this logically, and it's great, dude. It's so hard to explain the way that they talk, but I went to this one lady. She was good. You just gotta find like a good person.
Right.
hmm yeah, I think
I like that.
that's
The
so
person
good.
matters.
So, yeah, before we finish up, Hayes, do you have any questions for either Solomon or me, or anything
Dude,
on this topic?
I think that I'm good. I think just I've been really just invested in hearing what y'all have to say, because like I said, that's not something that I'm familiar with. So just hearing y'all's experiences with that, hearing Solomon's story, with what he's been through, I think is really um, can really be inspiring for people that are experiencing similar situations. Just knowing that you're not, whatever you're struggling with, you're not alone in that, number one, but
Mm,
also you can reach out. There's people you
Yeah,
can relate to, people that you can talk to relate to that and see what God says about it. Honestly, if you haven't considered that, I mean, I'm just saying, Solomon tried it and it worked for him. Solomon
yeah.
went to God and it worked. So
It,
definitely, I mean,
I tried everything else. I promise you that there
yeah,
is nothing I didn't try and put in that hole in my heart to fill. You know,
yeah,
the only thing that can fill it and will ever
mm.
fully fulfill it is Jesus.
yeah,
How
It's
exactly.
a
would
Jesus.
Jesus
It's a
size
Jesus-sized
what
hole,
would a
man.
Jesus size
That's right.
hole look like? Would it be like a cross, or like what are we seeing? What are we thinking a Jesus size hole
It's a
looks
good
like?
question.
That's it.
I
I mean,
do
if you want to
not
imagine it,
know.
okay, Cliff.
Yeah,
I
okay.
do not know, but yeah, I like that, and I think, and for anybody, like I said, for anybody who is struggling with that, or anybody in general that wants to, that has a question that you want answered or whatever, you can email us. That's what our email is for any questions that people listening might have. It's ready the next podcast at gmail.com, all lowercase, all one, all together, no spaces, ready the next podcast at gmail.com.
Or if
Email
it's
us there.
easier, you
Yeah,
can
just
always
make a
just
little pop up, bro. Just put it on the screen.
We'll
if
put
it's
it in the
easier for
description
you,
too.
yeah, if it's easier for you, you can always just like say you don't have an email. I mean, you most likely have an email,
Yeah, I
but
think
if you
everybody
Oh
has an
snap!
email. Everybody's
but
got an
you
email.
Yeah, but you can always just DM us on Instagram if that works better as well. So, everything will be in the description.
Yeah, it'll all be
But
there. Social medias, email, it's all there if you want to check us out.
yeah,
Man, I
Hayes, would
feel
you like
left out
to?
without a mic.
Do what? What do you say?
Hayes, would you like to pray us out?
I don't know what Solomon said. Yeah, dude. Let's do it. Let's pray it out and we'll finish this thing up. All right. Heavenly Father, thank you for another great podcast episode. Thank you for us getting to hear Solomon's story and getting to just share our thoughts on this topic and how you've been able to how you can move in people's lives and help them overcome these struggles. And I pray that this is motivating for somebody listening that may be facing the same struggles. And I just thank you that we have the opportunity to share these stories with people and to give them hope and shine light in their lives for you, Jesus. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for listening to another episode of the Ready the Next podcast. Like we were saying, our email and social medias are going to be in the show notes on Spotify and in the description on YouTube. Check us out on there. We'd love your support. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, and we will see y'all next week. RTN.
RTN.